Colorado moves the goalposts again to make it easier for people to kick it. Restaurants and other businesses starting soon. We hit a vaccine milestone. Let's look at how we're doing at shots for people 70 plus before we open it up to another big group Monday. A nicotine ad shows up in a student's online classroom and his dad's like, oh, no you don't. So now they won't. And a group with the sad distinction of Colorado's first pandemic outbreak shows us how they have adapted and thrived in the months since. Happy Friday. This is Next. Colorado is at it again, changing its COVID-19 restrictions dial in order to make it easier on counties to ease up. Here is an easy way to think about it. Purple, like the Colorado Rockies, means it's a complete disaster. Red, like this, means it's really, really bad. Orange, like the Broncos, not good, but could be worse. Yellow, like the Nuggets, hey, things are looking promising. So this is the state of things in Colorado. Most counties in the state are currently at level orange with some yellow mixed in there, especially in the central part of the state. Only one county, Hinsdale, is currently in blue. They're great. High five, Hinsdale. Now, here's the massive shift that's going to happen tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Ton more counties are going to ease into the less restrictive level blue, especially in southern Colorado and out on the plains. In the Denver metro area, ton of counties are going to shift to level yellow. That includes Denver, Adams, Douglas, and Jeffco. Level yellow in the metro area means that restaurants and other businesses can double their current capacity limit up to 50%. The governor announced this today, and we asked, are more interactions between all the unvaccinated Coloradans a smart move, considering the progress that we've made as a state to come down from those highs of late last year?
A restaurant itself inherently is not a high-risk environment. It's what you do there that can put yourself at greater risk. What does that mean? If you go out with your family, the people you live with, your significant other, 2 people, maybe there's kids, 4 or 5 people, that is a low to low medium risk activity. Now, if you have 8 people from 8 different households all gathering together and having dinner together at a restaurant, that is a higher risk activity. It's not the fact that it's a restaurant. It would be just as high a risk if it was in somebody's home.
500,000 Coloradans now have their first dose of the vaccine, and half of them are 70 plus. That's good. But the numbers mean that the 70 plus population in our state is only 45% vaccinated right now. And Monday, the state opens up the vaccine to a whole bunch more people without giving any kind of special priority to the still unvaccinated Coloradans who are 70 and older. Yesterday's rise in hospitalizations turned out to be a blip. That's good news. 502 people are currently hospitalized with the virus in Colorado. That is down 36 patients from the day before, down 94 patients from this time last week. Remember those Got Milk posters in school? You have like John Elway or Terrell Davis would have a milk mustache to encourage the kids to drink milk. Cannot really imagine a poster hung up in school advertising nicotine to the kids. Yet that is exactly the kind of ad that showed up on the screen of a Jeffco teenager's digital classroom. The student's father, a former state legislator, put that tobacco company on blast on social media, which works really well. Here's Marshall Zellinger.
These are the screenshots Rob Whitwer shared on Twitter, showing his teenage son's digital classroom with a digital ad for nicotine.
I was floored. I don't think I could have been more surprised than if I saw an advertisement for cigarettes in a school cafeteria.
Picture the cafeteria, with the poster of Governor Jared Polis encouraging you to read, except instead of the gov and a book, it's an ad for an e-cig.
I don't think the burden should fall on the school kid and the parent to keep advertising of tobacco products out of the virtual learning environment where kids, in middle school could be seeing it.
That's not the only ad. During our interview, Whitwer powered up the app, and we saw ads for vacations, prescription drugs, and sports betting.
Bet on the KC Tampa Bay game.
Meanwhile, the app company Quizlet responded to Whitwer's tweet asking for the nicotine ad to be taken down. The company apologized and said it has filters in place to make sure the ads are appropriate for all users.
I don't believe that this was intentional. I hope whatever gap there was in the the filtration process is addressed so it doesn't happen again.
Altria, the parent company of Philip Morris, the maker of the e-cig being advertised, replied that the ads are supposed to be for adult smokers 25 and up, and that all digital ads for that product were suspended.
I think I may have actually been responsible for it. I actually reached out to Altria's lobbyist and said, hey, this is a problem. Are you guys aware of this?
Republican State Representative Colin Larson is already considering legislation to penalize inappropriate advertising for age-specific products to ages that shouldn't be seeing it.
It might be creating liabilities for advertising platforms for what they display.
Colorado's Attorney General has already sued another e-cigarette maker, Juul, over ads targeted to kids.
Marketing to kids a product that they are not allowed to use is an unfair trade practice. And we're pushing that forward in this case against Juul.
An Altria spokesman told me tonight that they're working with their ad placement firm to find out how this slipped past their filters. It turns out Quizlet, the classroom app, has an option to opt out of ads for a few bucks each month. Think like a Pandora or Spotify membership. I wanted to know why there are ads in the first place. In a statement from Quizlet, I'm told the ads are there to help the platform be free for millions of other users, Kyle.
Yeah. If there are no ads, you are the product, the thing being sold. Marshall, thank you. MSU is raising an issue about how Colorado spends money on higher education these days. President of the university says the state's approach is leaving her students behind. Here's Anusha Roy.
Many students at MSU are students of color. Many are from lower income backgrounds and first-generation students, and they dream of what more funding could do for their education.
Having like a larger library database or access to more periodicals and journals.
Roughly 85% of the student body here is working and going to class. Many students enrolled part-time.
I think I work roughly 30 hours a week.
I wouldn't necessarily have a second job because I could make enough with my work study.
But the way the state allocates funding to higher ed has left MSU Denver behind.
About $4,000, $4,500 per student from the state, and the student makes up the rest of the cost with tuition. Other schools, the average in Colorado is more like in the 6,000s.
So MSU got lawmakers' attention.
Can't, with clear moral conscience, sign on to anything that does not explicitly and definitively address this equity gap.
I mean, all of our higher education institutions are in, I would say, dire straits. And just historically, we haven't funded them to the extent that other states have. But MSU's case was a little different in that they have a disparity compared to other organizations.
Republican State Senator Bob Rankin is on the Joint Budget Committee. There are a lot of factors into how the state splits the money, including how many students are full-time versus part-time and the number of students enrolled. And he believes the formula needs to be adjusted.
How do you weight first-generation students? How do you weight minority students? How do you put value on those degrees and the fact that people stay in the state? I don't believe those areas have really been taken into consideration as much as they should.
Now he wants to propose changing the system, but because the budget is finite, lawmakers are conscious of how this would impact other higher ed institution budgets, as well as competing needs from those that also saw budget cuts.
Senator Rankin was saying, the budget could be flexible. You could pull money from somewhere else to address that higher ed funding issue. But the competing needs are really significant, especially this year. We're talking K through 12 education, public safety, roads, bridges. I mean, I could go on and on and on about what needs to be addressed. So Senator Rankin was saying that he's hoping to address some of the disparities this year, but said honestly, probably won't be all of them. He's hoping to get to it over the next couple of years. MSU's president said, yeah, we get it. It's going to be a multi-year effort, but they're hoping it changes, Kyle, in, let's say, the next 5 years versus being dragged out over the next 2 decades.
And obviously, Anusha, higher ed doesn't exist in a vacuum. I mean, and education changes the trajectory of a life. So you're talking about, especially for underserved communities, having an enormous impact when you change the way education works.
Yeah, I mean, anything that would impact MSU and this funding structure would then also help any other university or colleges around Colorado with a similar structure and student demographic as well, which is something that MSU said, you know, it's not just them. It's not just about this one university. And it's more than just the economy side. Healthier Colorado has actually stepped into this conversation, saying they're interested in seeing a similar change. They were saying, you know, with more education can come more job stability, more housing stability, and then ultimately more healthcare stability as well.
All right. Anusha Roy, catch your weekend mornings on 9 News. Thank you, Anusha. Next time that there is news that somebody has been saved from human trafficking in Colorado, a whole bunch of you are going to be able to say, you know what? Might have played a small part in that rescue, because since Wednesday, you've raised $33,000 for the nonprofit that travels Colorado training people how to spot and stop human trafficking. The Laboratory to Combat Human Trafficking trains people in law enforcement, in hospitality, in healthcare, and human services. They do really good work, and we're helping them expand their efforts. If you want to get in on this goodness, text the word thanks to 303-871-1491. I will shoot you the link to this week's Word of Thanks micro-giving campaign. You can join me and a bunch of other good people who have collected $33,000 so far in 2 days to train more Coloradans on how to stop human trafficking. It's really important work. Well done, folks. Your good news shines through a gloomy day to end the work week. And hey, while we're on a positive kick, a hobby that could have dried up during the pandemic is instead going strong.
Now I play pretty regularly with 3 different women that I have never met, and we've become friends.
We've come a long way since the start of the pandemic, when a very public tragedy hit that community. That's next.
It's finally Friday, and in spite of the cloud cover, temperatures were comfortable today in the 40s along the Front Range. We'll go even warmer tomorrow. But a storm coming in tonight means another round of heavy mountain snow and wind. Winter weather and travel advisories have been posted for another 4 to 10 inches of snow with high avalanche danger. No snow for Denver. Partly cloudy and 24 tonight. Tomorrow, sunshine, mid-40s. Beautiful day coming up on Saturday, and that's not the warmest day of the weekend. We've got sunshine and 50s. It'll be a super Sunday ahead of an early week storm and maybe a few snow showers on Monday night.
This is just kind of a gray Friday. One of those days we often forget about with our 300 days of sunshine, which is not really true, but we like to say it to feel good about Colorado. A way to feel good that is also true is to ask you about the highlights in your everyday life. It's our Friday tradition here. This time, through the lens of our photojournalist Tom Cole, who went to school, then out on a field trip.
This is just my Friday. We're just hanging out. I like to kind of get out in nature and go explore a little bit. And we always love to see wildlife.
These are all my kids, my wife, my dad, and we're just going to go do the wildlife drive.
Our good news is that we made it through another week.
My good news is being out here on a Friday, and it's beautiful, and we just got to see deer, and I'm an animal lover, so that is my good news.
My good news is being out here in nature on a Friday office closed day, just taking in the scenery, seeing some wildlife. We even saw a bald eagle on the way in today.
My good news is me and my family are having a blast. We came from Missouri to have a little mini vacation here because it's beautiful.
It is so fun here. There's a lot more stuff to do here. It's just beautiful here.
My good news is I'm moving to Colorado.
A bridge tournament was the source of Colorado's first major COVID outbreak and the first death.
The stigma of knowing that, all of the Colorado COVID started in our community was difficult.
While in-person games have stopped, bridge players persevered, and they kept their community from becoming isolated. That's next. Colorado's first major COVID outbreak was last March at a bridge tournament in Colorado Springs. That event was tied to 24 cases of the virus and 4 deaths. Almost immediately, to put a stop to bridge games that had been a social oasis for some in our community who also happened to be at high risk for the virus. Bridge players, though, they found a way to stay connected. They told our Steve Steger how they did it, how they even added some new players along the way.
Look, this is the first. There will be more.
It was almost a year ago Colorado marked its first death from coronavirus, an elderly woman in El Paso County linked to a bridge club in Colorado Springs. Kathy McMahon was playing in that tournament.
I got a call from public health, and they said that I had to quarantine myself for 2 weeks. Within days, that bridge club in Colorado Springs was shuttered. And within a week, every club was closed.
The news rocked the community that plays this game. Cheryl Siegel teaches bridge.
The stigma of knowing that, all of the Colorado COVID started in our community was difficult.
The last year has presented a challenge, keeping this game alive when players can't meet in person.
Bridge players are social beings. Over the past year, we've tried to figure out ways to engage our community, to keep our game going with tournaments online and play online, mentorships.
You should bid to neutral.
11 months in, they've got it pretty well figured out. They've kept their tournament schedule and just for fun games online. And they've been able to mentor more experienced players into transitioning to the web. It's made an isolating time a little easier.
Now I play pretty regularly with 3 different women that I have never met. And we've become friends. And that is so cool. We all can't wait till the time when we can all go out to dinner together.
Cheryl says it's even helped expand the player pool.
These are people that have time on their hands, and what's not great about learning something new, and especially a game like bridge.
She's giving free lessons like this, if you're interested, smashing stigmas all along the way. For Next, I'm Steve Steger.
How does that not make you smile on a Friday? All right, so you got some time on your hands. You want to learn a new card game? Cheryl's bridge lessons are free. 6-week course. It's very intensive. Information is in this article on 9news.com. It is Colorado's most stoned highway. That plus your feedback next. The most Colorado thing we saw today is a sequel that is bigger than the original. It's been almost exactly a year since the San Miguel Sheriff's Department rocked and rolled into internet fame with their tweet about, quote, the large boulder the size of the small boulder. You remember that epic. This on Highway 145. Then almost like on cue, another boulder has rolled its way into our hearts. The Sheriff's Department down there tweeted this morning about a large boulder the size of a large boulder blocking the southbound lane of Highway 145. This definitely not medium-sized stone fell on the Stoner Creek portion of the highway there in Montezuma County. They built a new roadway around the last rock and just left it there. Not sure if they're going to do that again or whether they will explode this one into a ton of medium-sized boulders for removal. I like folks who have a sense of humor. Some of you tonight were a little visually startled. Kevin says, love the jacket, waiting for you to do song and dance. I'll do it, Kevin, if we can get Anusha, Marshall, and Steve jackets of their own, because, again, it's got to be a quartet. Jeffrey Allen asks, is that Chiefs red? No. D says, hope you wore red for Wear Red Day for cardiovascular disease awareness. There you go, D. You figured it out. Emily wants to know if we can get pants to match. I think that would be a bit much.